point. There is a lot of bad news about the state of news right now. If you didn't see, this year started off with a massive series of massive layoffs in the journalism industry, impacting outlets and reporters left and right nationwide. And while this would always be concerning, news layoffs at this scale have incredible consequences, especially in an election year, when fighting disinformation will be more important than ever and also seems harder than ever. And what makes all this even worse is this is a continuation of a problem, right? It's not like it was all rainbows and sunshine going into 2024. 2023 saw layoffs at the Washington Post, NPR, and many more. But hell, just this last January, before the end of the month, the Los Angeles Times gutted over 20% of its newsroom, with the paper's owners saying that the move is, quote, painful for all, but it is imperative that we act urgently and take steps to build a sustainable and thriving paper for the next generation. And with that, claiming that the paper was losing $30 to $40 million annually without building toward higher readership or new advertising and subscription revenues. You also had Business Insider getting rid of 8% of its workers, NBC News slashing staffers, New York Daily News, Forbes, and Condé Nast holding walkouts amid cost-cutting measures. Then you've got Pitchfork getting folded into GQ, Sports Illustrated laying off enough staffers that the entire future of the publication is called into question. And if all of this sounds like so much and a mess, yes. And if you're wondering, why does it feel like all of this is happening at once? There's actually a few reasons, right? The way consumers take in the news is just rapidly changing. They get pretty much everything on social media, which means there are less eyeballs on articles and TV stations. You've got legacy outlets struggling to effectively monetize their platforms, especially since they're struggling with online advertising. And here you have people like Jay Rosen, an associate professor of journalism at New York University, telling CNN, the ad industry doesn't need the news industry when there are so many other ways to purchase attention and so many better ways to target users. And so that's left a lot of newsrooms floundering, especially on local levels. In fact, according to data from Northwestern, in 2023, the U.S. lost on average 2.5 local papers a week. And that's left 204 counties with no local news outlet. And then there's just a bunch with only one local news source. And they estimate that another 228 counties are at risk of becoming news deserts in the next 5 years. And as you'd expect, this is largely impacting high poverty areas, which is absolutely devastating. You have entire and numerous communities just losing essential information pipelines, which you may think is nothing, but there's so much news that becomes big news on a national level that starts with local reporting. But again, even the big guys are struggling. Though, when we saw billionaires taking control of outlets like the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, many thought, hey, this is the answer. This is going to be the thing that solves it. But since both of those outlets just went through major layoffs, clearly that's not the case. And you have places like the Hollywood Reporter putting out pieces saying, unfortunately, it seems no category of owner appears able to salvage a media business in decline, with business models still stuck in the past and editorial models built for a world before Facebook, TikTok, and artificial intelligence. And actually, that last bit, artificial intelligence, is another big issue, because while it can be and is used for a number of things, it can also be very helpful to spread misinformation. Fake stories, fake pictures, fake videos. And you've seen how fast fake bullshit can spread across the internet, with part of the job of a number of people who are being fired being debunking misinformation like that. And when you have this situation where there's less and less trust in what the fuck is actually real, you're left with a larger portion of the population or the electorate less informed. And whether it be day to day in your personal and business life or at the ballot box every 2, 4, and or 6 years, it's important to be informed. Which, I mean, on the note of elections, we're already seeing some of this play out. AI election misinformation scams, and experts fear that it is only going to get worse from here. With Oren Etzioni, an artificial intelligence expert, telling the AP, I expect a tsunami of misinformation. I can't prove that. I hope to be proven wrong, but the ingredients are there and I am completely terrified. You could see a political candidate like President Biden being rushed to a hospital, and you could see bombings and violence that never occurred. And yeah, people could use this to manipulate voters or to just cause chaos. And the fact that this kind of misinformation is increasing while newsroom journalists are decreasing, it creates the perfect storm. And again, that storm exists outside of politics. I mean, how many times have we covered something on this show where someone turned to a journalist as their last resort and then finally got justice? They were finally heard. Some corrupt motherfucker was finally held accountable. As Emily St. Martin wrote, these stories have the ability to open and change minds, which in turn changes our culture. But the very big issue is I don't really see this trend changing in any way. And I don't know how realistic it is for any of these groups to actually evolve in a way where they're not just bleeding cash, which in turn will connect to a really long segment I'm going to release soon, because desperation and need for money, it sometimes results in not the best stuff. But for now, that is where I'm going to leave this one. And I want to pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts, your concerns, your feelings about the picture that's being painted right now? Because it not only falls on all of us as news consumers, but also people existing in the world.